thank everyone for coming out tonight. Just for logistics, I'm going to welcome you. This is sort of a joint meeting, informational meeting on Main Street, and also Andrew would like to, I guess, call a meeting to order. So I'm going to step aside, let Andrew do that, and then I will introduce our guests. But once again, thanks everyone for coming tonight.
Yeah, just for those of you who don't know, this is actually a joint meeting. It's a general membership meeting of the Cape Charles Business Association, and also a public town hall on the Cape Charles Main Street Initiative, or Main Street Cape Charles. And this follows up on the joint meeting we had back in December, which was a joint town council work session and town hall on Main Street. And the reason we're doing it this way tonight is because the board of the Business Association is currently working on a proposal to the general membership that the Business Association merge into the larger entity that will be Main Street Cape Charles. And the long story short, that organization's genesis was originally, I mean, it's gone through several iterations, was originally to be a Main Street organization. So it's kind of coming full circle. But Main Street is about a lot more than just the business owners. So it will depend on sort of across all sectors of the town, all the citizenry. So we thought this was a good approach to go forward. And at the December meeting, we heard from Kyle Meyer, the director of the program for the state, sort of about the mechanics of the program and what was involved and the benefits. For those of you who were there was a significant, they completed a 30-year impact evaluation of the tremendous benefit that this program has on towns like ours. So tonight we're going to hear about the experience of a town that has actually adopted Main Street, what they've gone through in terms of how it worked for them, and also what we can expect in terms of the process, and hopefully some benefit. So we'll jointly open this unusual meeting, and I'll turn it over. All right.
Yeah, I like to think of it as, if you were here at the earlier Main Street meeting, Kyle Myers with the Virginia State Main Street Organization sort of came and gave us the macro view of what Main Street is across the state, whereas we have Jane Beasley with us tonight to sort of look at the micro, sort of some of the programs and initiatives that a town organization can do and what they have done. And I'll just give you a brief bio on Jane. I didn't tell I was going to do this. So, 14 years with the town of Woodstock, created and was a part of the Woodstock Enhancement Committee, which was the Main Street organization as it was referred to in Woodstock, and its subcommittees in accordance with the National and Virginia Main Street model. After 8 years of planning, dedication, and hard work, completed the Streetscape Enhancement Project and won the Better Models for Development Award from Virginia Conservation Council in 2009 and the Virginia Downtown Development Association Award for Excellence in Streetscape in 2009. Ms. Beasley also is nominated for the Virginia Downtown Development Authority Committee Award for her commitment to downtown revitalization. Served as a committee member on tourism, economic development, and downtown development boards. One very important thing, she started the Facade Grant Program and has earned the town of Woodstock millions of dollars in funding. She has spoken at several engagements pertaining to community beautification, engagement, and revitalization. Began an event series that engaged the community and local businesses in a fun atmosphere. Built memories for children in Woodstock so that they remember their quality of life and will return to raise their own families. And on a side note, loves travel time with her 3 grandchildren, yoga, and retirement. So, without further ado, I'd like to present Jane Beasley. She has a PowerPoint presentation and hopefully may benefit you to be as close to the screen as you can. Just for some of the slides are sort of condensed. So, Ms. Beasley.
Well, a couple things. When Brent first told me about, or asked me to do this, he said, show off what you did. He didn't tell me all the other parts of this. But I want to start with, I am retired. It was a little hard. Some of the pictures may not be right because I left a lot of it behind. So they were really nice about sharing some of the old photos. Some of them aren't quite the quality I would like them to be, but I think you'll still get the gist. Having spent just 25 hours in your town, it is fabulous. I've met with some of you today, and I said, just where you are right now is light years ahead of most communities that start with Main Street, light years ahead. Little things are gonna have huge impacts here, and I think you really can accomplish it, and it's gonna go big, far, and wide. I think people are gonna come from all over to see what you have here. And most importantly, you wanna live here. Live, work, play, isn't that what we're supposed to say? That's what it's all about. So the first part, bear with me, it's a little bit of history and a little bit of text. After that, it's all pictures. We were called the Enhancement Committee. So that was a name given to us. We didn't get to choose a cute name like you have for yours coming up, and discussion on that. Most of the towns around have darling names for their projects, their main streets. We were assigned one. Our history was we were appointed in 2000. There were 10 of us, and I was an appointee before I was hired as the coordinator. There were 10 of us. We started with a budget of $20,000. And when we started looking, I was fortunate enough to find my 2000-2001 work plan, and even I was impressed with what can happen in a year or two. And what part of that, the reason we were formed was Walmart came to town. And our downtown stores, we were at about 70-75% vacancies, if not more, in downtown. And what was in downtown were professional offices that really didn't need to be on the main drag. It was not a commercial area, much at all. A lot of boarded up, or churches, or there were things in there that didn't belong in that area. So we began our work. You had some talk, I don't know how many of you were at Kyle's presentation about Main Street? Okay, so you've heard about the four points, and that's with your organization design, promotions, and economic restructuring, which I think has a new name, and I don't know what that is, but they all work together. All the committees overlap. But the part he may not have really talked about were the 8 principles. Have you seen? I don't want to bore, but the 8 principles were my Bible, my guidelines for what we did. When I became director in November, we started in May, I became director in November. I didn't know what to do, how to get this going, and I think that's where you are, is what Main Street does is have that structure, those rules, and just sort of the things, a plan to follow. And these 8 points, 8 principles were my guidelines. It's comprehensive, it has to be all-inclusive. Incremental, it takes time, you can't do it all overnight. Public-private partnerships, extremely important. Action-oriented, you've got to have something happening. You can't just talk it to death, something has to happen. Build on your existing assets, you're a unique community. You don't want to be like this one or that one. Pick up the things, steal, 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 we always say. If you see something good in the community, steal it. But make it your own. Do something to make it your own. Emphasize quality. Everything, don't do it if you can't do it right. Do it so it's going to last. Changing attitudes was our biggest thing. Nobody came to our downtown. Nobody cared about our downtown. They drove through it. And we had to change our town's attitudes, and that was probably our biggest obstacle. And self-help, you all have to do it. It's a community thing. You have to do the work. When I found this was our work plan that I had typed up in my little notes in the very beginning. And these were just some of the projects that we wanted to do. And Brett and I were looking at it today and we're going, check, 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 check. But it didn't all happen in those first 2 years, but a lot of it did. We came up with a mission statement, and our mission statement, and you'll probably work on that too as you get started if you don't already have one, but we wanted to strengthen our existing businesses before we felt that if our existing businesses were our best advertisement for new businesses to come in. If they're successful and happy, then that's what we want. They're going to get new businesses here. When people see it, they want to be a part of it. But we also wanted to foster that sense of community pride and involvement. We wanted everybody saying, we love our town, we love our town. So what really happened in that first year, again, remember we started in May, I was hired in November. We had our first Light Up Woodstock, not very creative name, but this was a long time ago. But what it was, our merchants did not decorate their windows. They did nothing to decorate their windows. We asked them to buy a strand of lights, put it in a door, put it in a window, do something. Just buy, here, I'll give you a box of white lights. And it wound up being a wonderful promotion. What would you say, Michael? Most of them did. We probably had 2 or 3 that didn't do it. Huge impact. But most importantly, we said, wouldn't it be nice to have an old-fashioned tree lighting ceremony? And we don't have a tree. So we formed a committee of 2, and these guys said, we can get a tree, we can do this. And they brought in a 55-foot tree and put it in a hole. We screwed light bulbs for the entire month of October into new light strands, and we had one heck of a tree lighting. We were scared that every light in town was going to go off when we did the countdown, and we had 2 guys in the bushes that plugged it in, but we were so excited, and we had 400 people there, and we thought we were hot stuff. I mean, 400 people in town showing up. The lights stayed on in town. I mean, everything. People were just talking about this tree. What happened? Let's see. There we go. We had lunch on the lawn. It was another event that we came up with. And it was Fridays at noon, June through September. We had no lack for musicians. I can't believe they would come out and play for, I think it was $50 or $75 they would play. They'd set up. We had 150 people or so. We had no lawn. We had concrete. And people came out. We thought it would bring people, they would buy lunches at the local restaurants, which were small. They'd come sit and have lunch. That's not the way it worked. Every retiree in town came with their lawn chair, and they would sit there. They loved it. Brought their lunches. So it wound up not being a business thing so much as the retirement community, the people living there coming together, and they were our strongest supporters. They were the ones that were against the whole idea that it will never work, it will never work, it will never work. But they were there every Friday. What happened next was hanging baskets. I wanted hanging baskets on Main Street. And we did, and I didn't get a good picture here of hanging baskets, but we'll see some others later. But I had some beautiful ones. The ones I have are not the best ones of them. But it really set a tone. I think we had 12 on the Main Street on utility poles, which I don't know how your utility company is, but it takes an act of God to get a bracket on a utility pole. But everybody cooperated, and they were beautiful. And we got some planters and planted some things along the street, and I think we had 6 or 8 in the beginning. But there was a buzz. The merchants in town were buzzing, and people were coming into town. We wanted a Civil War trail marker and to be on that map. And we had to, Civil War went on all around us. There's history all around us, but not much in Woodstock. Hardly any. I mean, it took a long time to find a fact that we could put on here, but it's been a nice, we're on the map. We're on the map, and we have one. And we had Fall Festival, which was the very beginning of all our Rain Powder festivals. We had quite a run. There was no Fall Festival, but we did unveil the Civil War trail marker. We wanted a streetscape plan for the entire town, some kind of plan to give us the guidance on what we could do along the streets with money. We had $20,000, which wasn't going to do much, but they would get us a streetscape plan, which we carried money for 2 years to get it paid for, but we had it throughout the entire town. But it was people talking about what improvements could be done, people coming together, coming up with ideas. We had the plan, but most importantly, it gave me enough information to start applying for grants, which we'll get to, but that came a little bit later after that. But that plan, we could go to civic organizations, we could start speaking publicly and talking about, here's the vision, here's our vision. We can see this happening. The second leg up Woodstock, I always had the theory, having worked with PTAs and PTOs, that if you have children performing, you have grandparents, you have parents, you have people at your events. So we started having the school children sing Christmas carols. And we had Santa come, and we had the real Santa, who was absolutely fabulous. And hot chocolate, free hot chocolate and cookies. And it was a huge success. Second year, the kids on the steps. I don't know if you can see the crowd pictures, but we're in a town of, you said 6,000, I thought our census was 4,000, but yeah, back then it was 4,000 people, and we had at least half, if not more, at this tree lighting ceremony the second year. So now we knew we could accomplish anything, anything we wanted to take on. So that's what we were ready to go after that grant money. We doubled our committees. What we did with our board is we had a working board. And once I became king, as I said last night, or dictator, or whatever term you want, everybody on the board then served on a committee. You could choose, but there were 4 committees and you're going to serve on those committees. So we had 2 or 3 people on each committee, but we doubled our membership, which we didn't charge membership dues, but our committees grew. And it really worked out for us, and we had lots of enthusiasm, energy, everybody's ready to go. One of the first things we did was look at branding and look at who we were and try to come up with what was our asset. And we looked and looked and looked, and we really didn't have much in town. We had a historic courthouse, but we decided we had a feeling. We had that hometown feeling. So all our events and promotions went toward that hometown feeling. But our branding, this is the weather vane on top of our courthouse, 1792. Not a lot of history about it. He's not the friendliest looking guy, but he's unique. And the history, all the locals describe it as an Indian, which we didn't really think would happen. And most of the historians, all the historians, disagreed with that. They were saying it was Swiss militia. And the names in our area all support that. What was in Lucerne for the Swiss Guard, and we call it the Swiss Guard. But the names are all our local valley names that were in Lucerne, Swiss Guard. So we're going with that theory. But you'll see this little guy popping up everywhere. Welcome signs. We had a sign program, and when we went back to the work plan, that was part of it. We wanted a gateway and a sign program. That was the before sign. This is the after sign. And that was in 2002 they were installed. We went through the design committee, came up with ideas. They incorporated the ironwork from the Swiss Guard, from the weather vane. That's incorporated, the ironwork. Our wayfinders. It's a bad picture, you can see, but it's historic. We had the gas signs, we had everything else there as you came into the historic district. And ours with the Swiss Guard. They're going to be updating these, and I wish I had a sketch of what they're doing. There'll be a different design now. It's time for it to evolve. This was 2002. We didn't know what we were doing, but it worked. Our wayfinding out, finding into town, the first weekend they went up, we had an interior design business in town. The interstate is up our commercial district, and the downtown's about 1.5 miles, 2 miles to the commercial downtown district, historic district. They had a sale that first Saturday from somebody that followed the signs for $2,000. So we had testimony then, first weekend. So they did work. We figured you could capture 1% of the people coming off the interstate. You've gotten a lot of money into the downtown district. Our municipal signs, that was in 2005, 2016, the difference with the plannings and how things mature. Our street signs, the bad one again, and what it used to be. And you already have great street signs, nice things, but we didn't. We had those. And you can see our old streetscape there. We have the commercial road that comes in from the interstate. We did street signs in 2011, and we added the hanging baskets in 2014 to those signs. And that's what they look like right now, growing right now. They're not very much. They'll be draping in another week or so over. Same themes, if you look back, we kept the consistency of the Swiss Guard, but it's bigger for the commercial area. It's not the downtown walking district, it's a larger sign. Promotional materials. We had a redesign of our bumper sticker just recently. You couldn't read. The Swiss Guard was cute, but nobody knew what the heck it said, so it was time for a redesign. Committees, again, we come up with ideas to do them. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Street light concepts. Oops, let's go back here. You see the photos on the left there. You can see one of our committee members went to Scotland and was taking pictures out of a bus window of street lights because she was thinking, that's pretty cool. So we came back to our design committee and they came up with a design for when we got to our streetscape and could do lighting. And that's what they look like today installed. So these things happen. Take pictures everywhere you go. Anything you see that you like, take photos. Oops, I'm clicking my trigger. Sorry. Let's go back. Back. Can you? There we go. These concepts were in 2003. When I say it takes a long time sometimes, but these were the concepts. That was a mock-up of what it could look like with a four-sided. I was in favor of two-sided, but the committee liked four-sided. And this is what it looks like today. It was installed just a year ago, and they did go with a four-sided and raised it a bit. The private-public partnership and the organization's Rotary bought the clock. The Civic Club signs and community events, that's what it looked like prior. We thought, wouldn't it be nice to clean that up a little bit? Going fast here, but that was our concept. And that's what it looks like installed. Now we're flying past them here.
Well, I think the timer's on.
It wasn't me after all.
You have 10 seconds per slide.
Okay. It wasn't me.
Which is the clock.
Okay. But the community, the hospital partner, our local hospital partnered on this and did half the cost of the sign. And all the organizations right away replaced their signs and got them up. We had a new water tank installed in 2004, and we did a design to put the name on because it's right out by the interstate. I was not in favor of the colored lights. I'll go on record. I thought, no, we're not Las Vegas. But it was time to do a redesign because you couldn't read that from the interstate. So we did a redesign in 2013, and it was painted in 2014. And we have white lights on the tank now. But people say it's from both directions now, and it is a landmark and an advertising tool for us. This is the best of times and the worst of times. The Court Square Enhancement Project, and this is one of the things with your streetscape, and Brent and I could see VDOT money coming, grants for this area and things you could do. This is what our historic courthouse looked like long ago. We started planning, and we were talking about, we had fun when Brent was saying that in the intro, and I was telling someone today that I always said, if you were into parliamentary procedure, our group was not the group for you. We were a brainstorming group, and we had fun while we were doing it, but boy, did they work. But we'd sit around the table, all ideas could be thrown out and considered, tweaked, and we had fun to boot. And I will say, all these people, a lot of them I didn't know before, but I've made some wonderful lifetime friends. But they were pretty young. They liked to have fun, but they had dreams. They had big dreams. And this is what our court square looked like from one angle prior to the streetscape. Different levels, sidewalk, and you see you have a little bit of that around here, steps up and down. And we had these nice concrete tree things with maples that were beautiful 2 weeks of the year. And here was I was afraid that if we took those trees out, they would hang me from one of them before it happened. But the group's getting together, public meeting, it would have been a public lynching, I thought, but eventually everybody came around to the idea. Now, let's see. It didn't happen quickly, I will tell you that. These dreams do take a long time, but this was our timeline. We had the streetscape plan in 2001. I did my first grant attempt in 2002, didn't get it. Got a tiny bit of money in 2003, a tiny bit more in 2004. In $1.5 million project, I think we got $120,000 the first time around, and then $120,000 the second time around. And then 2005, we got fully funded. We started working on plans, preliminary plans. Okay, Brenda. Oh, I'm sorry, that one's hard to say. But we started having public input. We were funded 6, 7, 8. And then there were the environmental reviews and all the reviews and the 70%, and they just went round and round and round. We had the notice to proceed in 2007. This started, remember 2001 I applied for the first money. 2008 we had the invitations to bid, finally we got the contract in. and the recession hit. This is what the courthouse looked before. The trees, like I said, they were gorgeous 2 weeks out of the year, but there is a gorgeous building behind that. Come on. That was our concept, where we had the trees left in because I was terrified. We did come around eventually to those trees coming out and putting trees in. We had arborists come, 3 or 4 different arborists to evaluate the life of those trees, and 8 to 10 years was the maximum on one, 5 to 7 on the other. You would spend $1.5 million to leave them in there, and then have it not done right and have to come back in and do something else, and everybody agreed. We still had those who didn't, but that's what it looked like after the project. We had a usable event space. That was our dedication, and you might see some orange cones over here. We find out about 3/4 of the way through that VDOT won't pay for the traffic signals. And so we still had these hideous wires and poles and everything in the middle of things. So then we had to go for another grant, revenue sharing, for $75,000 more to put the streetlights in and bring everybody back to put them in, what, like 3 months later. But it doesn't go smoothly all the time. But that's what it looks like at this point. And we had this beautiful historic courthouse. We fought to get it open to the public. It was used for storage. It's now a museum. You can go through it. You can see the history. It's a whole new world. We had this unique area called Lawyers Road, which I couldn't see back here. That was a part of this plan. This was our concept for what it could look like. And this is what it looks like today. We use it for crafters during events. It's just a nice little green area. But these buildings back here are still underutilized, which I think would be the most valuable piece of real estate in Woodstock. They should be law offices. They should be something. They're darling little buildings. But that hadn't happened yet. Here's North Main Street. Oops, I'm going to go back to what it looks like. A wild flicker here. Well, maybe we won't. There we go. That's what it looked like back in 2002. And that was the concept for that area. And this is where we had a lot of uneven grading there, and they came up with some ideas to even that out. But, took my clicker here, there we go. This didn't happen. And so the recession, the streetscape plan, the water treatment plant all hit in that same 2008 year. We had a new council come in. They voted not to do, it's an 80-20 program, they voted not to do the match. So we lost all future grants. We're back in the hole with everybody else. So we did not get to complete that one, which is heartbreaking for those folks in that block, but that's what it looks like today. Still very similar, but we do have more storefronts going. We have planters that we're trying to soften the effect until something can be done. Come on, Clicker. I need to hear you. Where is it? We did a Veterans Memorial Garden, a little corner of the gas station. Afterwards, we have benches, flags. It's a nice little sitting area and a tribute to our veterans. The Woodstock Garden project was just completed right before I left. This was, as you enter our town, it was a lot that looked like that from the day I moved there. And we had a concept. We pitched it. The telephone company actually owns that piece of property, so our guy put a great big telephone in there for our sculpture. He didn't like that idea when we went to the telephone company, but this is what the park looks like today. We have a statue in there that will rotate out every 2 years. We'll have another artist, we'll have a call for artists, and they'll put in another statue. We don't own it, we just lease the statue basically, and it will move out. I understand they'll probably give it to us because they want to come back and get it, an artist from Florida. And so when our 2 years is up, I'll let you know if they let us keep it. But that was the idea. There's my very proud mother, because when I retired, they named it Jane's Garden. And my very proud mother took the stand. Private investment in the town. This is what a lot of our Main Street looked like.
It was an old Dollar General store.
And I think it started as Western Auto prior to that, or Montgomery Ward's. Then it was Western Auto, and then it was the cafe that was the first, and that was early on in the coffee shop days. This is what it looks like now. It's a cute little bakery next door to it. AutoZone auto parts right in the middle of town. Whoops. Interior designer bought it. Another interior designer bought it, and that one, it's ever evolving. That's what it looks like today. A log building in town, very attractive building, but they had plywood on the side, and the back was falling off. A cute building. A fella just bought this in the past year and a half, I guess, and it's beautiful. There's stone courtyards. He's put in a high-end apartment upstairs. It's really a beautiful building. This is our finest thing here, new to town. We have a brew pub. And this was the old KC Manufacturing Company. And I'll give up Michael's father. Actually came in and put a mansard roof on it back in the late 70s and really took out all the windows and covered them up and really messed it up. But this guy took it back to the way it should be. It is a beautiful building. Absolutely beautiful building. Oh, let me get back. I didn't tell Michael I was going to do this. This is our office building. This is what it looked like a few weeks ago. This is a work in progress. I'm going to get it. Whoops, whoops. We're having a lot of clicking here. He's making all the railings for upstairs, but a nice paint job here. We're very proud of our building. What's the year on that? It's
1791.
1791. It's a really neat old building. How come when you want it to go? We were talking about facade drawings, and with Main Street, they usually contract with Fraser and Associates to do architectural drawing as a benefit to the Main Street communities. We were an affiliate, but we tagged on to a lot of the programs that Main Street offers, and one of them was facade drawings. And it was a service. We had businesses that we had a meeting, informational meeting, where we showed them what we could do and what it was about. And we asked the businesses if they were interested in having drawings done and when they would plan to do the work. And so we had probably about 14 businesses come interested in it. And we had 6 that were actually selected for the program. This was the movie theater in town, still operating, 3 screens. They didn't have very much money to put into it, and that was part of the thing. There were different levels. So for $2,000 and under, she would do drawings. For $10,000, she would do drawings, and then for $50,000 in those ranges, depending on how much money the businesses wanted to put in or the building owners wanted to invest in the program. This one was one of the other ones where it was just basically paint and maybe some lights. And they talked about colors. She met with them, and they started painting. They decided on the red, and this is what it looked like after. It was just a much fresher look. It was a very minor change, but it had a big impact. And they're still working on the little lights. They have all this electrical in on it, but not quite done yet. Springhouse Tavern, we have a nice little restaurant. They had this building next door that was not in good shape at all, and they were renting it out as a house. They tried to do little storefronts, but it was in really bad repair. She came back with drawings, and his was paint. He wanted to paint it. He actually wanted to stain the siding, and it was in such bad shape in places. And he said, "Do you ever think about solid stain?" And he came around to that. That's what it looked like, and that's what it looks like today. It's not a huge difference, but from what it was stripped down and with parts, he took down chimneys that were falling down. It's in much better shape than it was before. This one is an interesting one. It's a really cool building. It's our Schmidt building in town. An owner from out of town has it, but he has started. The windows were actually out. I didn't have a picture before, but all the windows in the top, which would make excellent loft apartments. It's a cool space up there. The windows were out for years with pigeons coming and going, and water dripping down, rusting. And they didn't go with our color schemes, but they are working on it, and it's a lot better. Business seminars and events or other things. Main Street with the business seminars, they do have speakers that are available. Mark Wilson is one who was a retail specialist to come in. He would do one-on-one visits with the businesses that were interested and do some critiques, and he was a lot of fun as well. We had Ray Sidney Smith come in. We had one that was all about websites and how to get web presence. We've held numerous things. We did have I think I have a slide here of it. If we can get that. And then it goes by. We had a business event early on that we thought, Alive After 5, what a concept. And I will tell you, I was running around looking at doors in your stores last night to see the hours. A, they're posted, which is fabulous. B, there are nights that are open, which is really good. There are a lot of communities that don't have that, and weekends and Sundays and different things. So, I mean, that was really exciting for me. Our business is closed at 5 o'clock. So most of our people who commuted anywhere to work or worked had never been in most of our stores. They had never seen what was in there because they were gone by the time they got off. And a lot of them only opened from noon to 1 on Saturdays. And most of us were doing our chores in that time frame and didn't get cleaned up to come downtown and check out the little stores. So we thought we'd have this Alive After 5 event before Christmas, 4 weeks before Christmas, and stay open on Thursday nights. And let people who live there see what you have to offer. It was only mildly successful downtown. We had very few people come downtown, but the ones that went in the stores had no idea that we had a store that sold Vera Bradley. They had no idea they could buy specialty items in downtown. So that was successful, but what was really successful was a shopping center on the other end of town filled their restaurant to capacity. The parking lot was wall-to-wall people. We did away with that event because it wasn't successful all the way around, but that shopping center did keep the little restaurant open, the other stores didn't. But what happened in Woodstock is our downtown stores started staying, one restaurant stayed open on a Thursday night, started having special dinners on a Thursday night. The Brew House has music on Thursday nights. Joe's has specials on Thursday nights, another restaurant in town. You can't find a parking place on our streets on Thursday night. I mean, it is, we longed for a parking problem, and we're finally going to get a parking lot, because we have a parking problem on Thursday nights. Hopefully that will expand in the future, but that's when our locals are really going out. One more time. Some of the events we had, they grew. We went from mimeograph for copied sheets of paper to real posters and real printing. Remember our lunch on the lawn with no lawn? We got a park where we could have our events in shortly thereafter, and we thought that was great. And we moved them from day to evening, and we had crowds of 500-600 people come into these little concerts in that little park. And part of that theory was there's no parking, there's no parking, there's no parking in downtown. You can't park by the door to get in the store. I'm not going there because I can't park downtown. Well, our Christmas event with thousands of people, they're parking somewhere. That's part of the theory, is that if they want to be there, they're going to find it. And with this, there really wasn't parking in that area, but they were all there at these concerts and they found a place to park. And they started coming to downtown. We then moved to the other park and had a trailer stage and thought we were doing great. So we're moving on. And now we have a permanent stage up at the park with a beautiful setting with the mountains in the background. There's the playground next to it. There's a pool that's open part of the time. People just come, the young families love it because the kids can be on the playground. There's chairs, there's music, there's food vendors. It's grown. We actually grew into a kids program that we have on Saturdays, and that continues to grow. And my daughter actually wanted that because all the events were on days when she was working for children, and she couldn't ever bring her kids to events, so we started having Saturday events so her kids could come with them. She didn't live there, but other kids, other people in that area. Vintage Woodstock's our street dance, which grows and grows. It's this Friday. Lots of Halloween on Court Square where the kids trick or treat. Everybody says, why do you only have it for an hour and a half? Because there are 600-800 kids that come through trick or treating. You would kill everybody in town if you had it longer than that. But we had activities and everybody coming to that. Light Up Woodstock continues to grow. And the parade, Chamber of Commerce partnered with them, and they moved the parade to the same night, so it's just 10 times better. Oops. Again, Peter Muhlenberg statue project around Court Square, from drawings to installation to there. banner projects, we change our banners out for different seasons. Planner projects, we had a bridge coming into town that was a law, and these planners, we stole that idea from Lorraine. If anybody's been to Lorraine, they did it first. We stole that from them. A bench program. We had two styles of benches that are similar. One has a straight back, and then it's one with a rounded back. And we put them out to the people in town. If they wanted to purchase, the town paid half, and they paid half, and they got a plaque on it. And it was so wildly successful. We probably have more benches in town than we do people to sit on them, but they're all over. And they're very attractive. They've been there since 2002 and look like the day we put them in. Got a website. Novel idea in 2007, a town without a website, but we did get it, and it was really basic and not very cool. And we just did a rewrite before I left in 2012, and it is pretty cool. So townofwoods.va.gov. Other projects, we partner with the Tree Board. We're Tree City. Our board actually started the Tree Board within, and now it's its own entity, and we plant it with the Clean Water Act. I can tell you how many trees we planted in town. Woodstock Gateway Enhancement Project, and this is like I was telling Brent, you might know, Virginia Tech has a community design assistance program that the students do landscape designs. And it was a little bit of overkill for us, but not the guy that's there now doesn't think it's overkill. I thought it was for us. I didn't think we could maintain it. But this is what our little commercial district coming in off with the interstate looked like. And today, oops, went right by there again. It's quick on the draw. But all the way down, trees, shrubs, beds gone all the way down the hill. They just did this one last week, heading up the hill with Fast Food Alley and Walmart and all that. But it is funded by the Clean Water Act and the Department of Forestry. This is a slide that I said I'm going to give you. It's an old Main Street, National Main Street slide, but it's the facts about revitalization. There is no magic bullet. Now maybe we will. There are no handouts. People don't give you everything. What's your problem here, Brent? Okay, one at a time. Okay, most of the resources are local. You all will do it. Not everybody's going to like what you do or like you. 2008 would be an example of that in our town. But they sure came around afterwards when it was done. Some change will be needed. Everybody wants it to stay the way it is, but they want it better. You can't do it alone. It takes a lot of people and a lot of partnerships to do it. And it won't happen overnight. And it's never finished. It's ongoing. There's never a day that it's over. And you're just as qualified as anybody else to make it happen. And that is a little tour of our town.
I think, as she goes through this slide, we are far ahead of the game. With the business association did this last year with keeping businesses open around the holiday season. I think there really was some momentum gained as part of that. We already have Central Park, which is a beautiful setting. So I think what we really are looking at is to refine what we already have, and I think I get back to the quality. When you look at those benches, there's a reason they look the same they did 10 years ago.
Our signs look the same they did.
And it's because of the quality of the materials. And I love Bayshore Concrete's benches, but they're not the most comfortable thing to sit on. So I think that the design aspect really excites me about where we can go with sort of Mason Avenue, especially the north side. The south side is part of the 10-foot community trail, but the north side where all the storefronts are right now, I think that there's definitely an Italian Strawberry Street to that, to sort of tie our whole commercial district as it is today. And we have a community space that's about to develop on the south side of Mason Avenue, sort of centered between the buildings Patrick Hand's proposing, one under construction now. So I think it was a good time. There's a lot of opportunities for an organization to start and really make some impacts. We talk about low-hanging fruit and just simple things like we're freshening up our banners, hanging baskets, planters, things of that nature that I think are things that initially the organization could be tasked with. But, I think it's a very exciting time, and I think it's good to sort of put some things in perspective, but sometimes some of these projects do take over years, almost a decade, with the streetscape project. And one thing that VDOT does do, not to get you into technicalities, but they no longer partially fund projects. They're either going to give you all the money to do it, they're not going to make you wait over a 4-year budget or a 4-year grant cycle to get funding for projects. So it's either all or nothing. So that's a good thing as far as the time goes. It's just a matter of qualifying for the money. But I think, right now everyone has, this is sort of a picture of everything, and I'm sure everyone has specific questions to sort of their specific either businesses or interests in the program. And I think it'd be great now just to open the floor and take any questions you may have about the program on a state level, a local level. One good thing about Jane being retired is she can actually say what she thinks as opposed to what's politically correct. So, it's not everything in this program will be easy, and I think she's a testament to that. But I think it's definitely, Tammy, I see your hand going up.
Yeah, I just had a question. What are some of the places that you got grants? What's TEA? Did I miss what that is?
That's a VDOT grant. They change the name I think it's every 3 years.
Yeah, it's,
legislation.
Yeah,
So all of those that were listed were VDOT related?
Okay.
All our roads are
Yeah. Yeah, when you're in Commonwealth of Virginia, until your population reaches 3,500 full-time residents, VDOT maintains your roads. In Woodstock's case, they're, at 6,000 people right now, so they are actually paid by VDOT to maintain their roads.
Sure.
By lane miles, there's a whole equation they throw into which staffs the entire department. basically.
But were there grants for other things? I didn't know that those were specifically all, I know that's all owned by.
Well, they did have the Rails to Trails was part of that program. There were some different things.
Because there's like Keep America Beautiful, there's a lot of grant programs out there. I just didn't know if there were others that
That's one thing the
Woodstock
state
had to
does.
work with.
The state will sort of look at a project that you're maybe looking at, and they'll identify funding sources for you
Right.
and direct you.
I think Export was part of the same grant
Yes.
you were on.
Yeah.
What they did, it was 8 years ago, I guess, they're on the street makeup. They're part of the same grant.
And there have been visitor centers built, there have been different projects that cut back on that, but that's like train station. It has to do with transportation. It has to all tie back to transportation.
Sure.
But there were a lot of train stations done around the state, I know, where they restored them and made them visitor centers and community centers. But they've gone away from that too, I think now.
They had, I did one in Percival when I was there in Loudoun County, and I don't think you can get one funded today. But, something interesting, with our history in transportation, it's train, it's ferry. We may have some unique opportunities here that they may consider funding because they are, the ferry is very unique.
Very, very unique, and you've seen that lot down there. I have all kinds of visions of that lot down there.
It'd be nice to have a bathroom. Anyone else? Yes, Ms. Metalli.
You mentioned that the first year the organization started in Woodstock, that it started in May, and you were appointed in November, and shortly thereafter you had a $20,000 program for landscaping, well, trees.
For whatever we did.
Well, I thought you were talking specifically about any plants and planters.
That was everything we did. 20,000 was our budget for the first year. And we did the planters, we had a couple events, we had the tree. When we got the tree, anybody will give you, our guys would ride around town and look for a tree that somebody needed cut down that was beautiful. And we had volunteers with the cranes, with the flatbeds. They were all volunteers that did all that. We had to buy the Christmas lights, Christmas decorations. But doing that master plan was our biggest thing, and we couldn't afford it the first year with doing these other things. But they let us roll, which you don't technically do, but they gave us the money toward it so that we had 30,000 the next year. And we could do that streetscape master plan, which is what gave us all the info we needed to get started, to start applying for grants.
Was the Main Street, the main participants in the Main Street program in Woodstock, were they all volunteer or were they paid?
I was the only paid staff part-time. I I coordinated the efforts. Everybody else was volunteer. It was all community made up.
So that 20,000 paid for your
My
salary
salary
too?
did not come out of that at
Thank
that
you.
point. It
It
did
did
not come
not.
out of that.
Where did they come from?
I don't know, they were,
Nice and fuzzy math by the town administrator.
yeah, it
Before I
was
got
creative
there, so-
financing, before the director of finance. It was back in 2000, and it was a little creative financing. It eventually rolled into where that was part of the budget.
Okay.
But that budget grew and grew and grew and grew. But we had things happening with that. It was a good investment because of things that you could see, those little things you could see that got us the buy-in and got us those volunteers who, we had an engineer, architect, trying to think who all, like I say, the guys, even as technical as that, a crane would put that tree in the hole, it was engineered and went in there. Trying to think, design, we had people who were helping with paint colors, and yeah, landscapers that volunteered. I mean, we had all, well, and then there were the bunch of us, when we were looking at those design things, when somebody takes a picture, it was just, oh, how do we make that with the lights? It was just lay people, I can't draw stick people. But we'd sit there and we had somebody that we would take it to and say, here's our idea, you know, and they would draw it up, the engineer actually, engineer architect, like, he would do all the design and all the specs and everything. We could go to a fabricator and have it made. The hanging baskets on the, you know, he designed weight loads that would go on the bridge to hold it, and we have it made.
And I just wanted to point out, I don't know if Frank is aware of this, because you're relatively new. The majority of the Central Park walkway was all T21 grant.
Beautiful park. We walked that
It
this
came
morning.
into the park and it went 3/4 of the way out and then had a lead. If
Yeah.
you couldn't make a complete circle, that would be a walkway. But, so
Isn't it
we
great?
designed it in such a way that we could get 3/4 of the walkway through a T21. And that made a big difference in improving our park.
Yeah, 80/20 match on those is nice.
Yeah, if you think about what we're doing now as a town, if you look at the entire grand scheme of what's been going on, we've got a business association that does part of the task. We've got the town that does crab lighting, for instance, is one thing. We've got Citizens for Central Park. All these groups are doing exactly the same thing as this full Main Street. So what it does is consolidate everything into
I
one.
agree.
But that's all I'm pointing out.
I'm just going to point out that the organization Main Street, the Business Association runs under now, was originally called Cape Town Renewal Program, and they're the ones that brought in the wrought iron benches and garbage receptacles
Right.
along Mason Avenue.
Which are still there.
Yes, they're still there. Yeah.
No, but it's taking,
We've done lots of bits and pieces, and not so much.
And
taking
that's
a bunch of groups from the same
For
thing.
what you've already talked about.
Exactly, and that's the way it goes. You do little at a time,
Mhm.
little at a time to get it, have that plan as to where you want to go. It was the side street, was that Strawberry?
Strawberry.
That, to connect that, you know, what an asset.
That was
to
an art
really
grant.
have that. You know, just to make that,
So that came from a whole other committee. So we've got a bunch of committees that do all the same thing.
and they can all
but what
be,
is one?
maybe that group, the design group, or the, you know, what are part of the design group, but it's, and you'll find some opposition along the way, as you
Nah,
try to
I'm
do
just,
that. Chamber of Commerce was our biggest problem when I started. They thought we were competing with them, and that, no, we want to help with whatever we can. It was a big problem. And I can remember somebody at Main Street telling me once at a meeting when I was saying, how do I work around this? It's an impossible situation. And I just remember her saying, yeah, be our friend. And she did get old. She eventually got really old. But it's a great partnership now. Any events or anything we do is in partnership, and I say we, because I still volunteer. But it's, and not nearly as much anymore because I want to run around all the time. But that we're in partnership, it's a great partnership, all events.
When you started the organization, did you have problems recruiting from the business organizations and or the residents? Were there conflicts there, or did anyone jump in?
We did have, people don't tend to jump in, I find. You have, and I said, I was saying this last night, you know, the theory of 20% of the people people are with you all the time, 20% are against you all the time, you're grouped in the middle, and shoot for that group in the middle and get them on your side and helping out. What I found was best, and like I said, we had our 10 working board members, a one-on-one conversation always got us the numbers we needed. And once we started having some of these successes, people were coming to us about how can I be a part of this? And we were having fun. They'd see us out, we painted logos on the street one night, and I mean, everybody's out there and they're just having a good time. We're out there with blowers and after dark and police cars and everything else trying, and everybody had fun. And it just, they wanted to be part of it. And so that's when, and to this day, when I was leaving a year ago, young people were coming right and left and volunteering. My kids' friends that have small children now were volunteering. Before, we were basically my age when I started, you know, and not a lot of the 20, 30-somethings weren't volunteering as much. But I could say, I mean, they're probably 75% of the group at this point. I was probably 50 when I left. So it's, and they didn't have the young director at that time. She's bringing a lot of young ones with her, but the interest in the volunteers, I mean, we still have our retirees that are right there side by side at meetings, brainstorming. It's an age group mix, residents, businesses, and we did not limit to town. We did county, next town. If they wanted to be a part of it, they were in. Their opinion mattered. They're shopping in our town. They're spending their money in our town. So their opinions mattered. So we never limited it to just town residents or businesses or whatever. It was a mix.
Some of the people were business owners in town, but didn't live in town, for example. But, you know, there were instances where they really just lived in the county, but were, you know, they saw the town of Woodstock as sort of their hub of commerce. That's where they spent their money and time. And they wanted to be active and be involved and be a part of sort of the synergy that they've developed over the years. And, you know, I'm talking about surgeons and
Oh, yeah.
everyone.
We had lots of doctors that served as well. It was just, yeah, I was trying to think who all the volunteers, it was a big group, accountants, I mean, it was just.
Yeah, but the groups, you know, you mentioned the 4 points, and, you know, the organization is probably something that's going to be a little more involved in the beginning as far as setting the structure for the organization moving forward. But
We actually merged our board, became our organization committee after we got going. It's sort of the way we,
Yeah,
and once we were established, our board was really our organization.
But then the promotions, I always said the promotions and the design were the more sexy of the organizations, because you got to do things that you could see impact, like, you know, economic revitalization. What the hell is that? You know? But it's important. It's just,
And it
it's
was
more
what-
accountant types as opposed to.
And it was the business promotion things, the pieces, the promotional pieces, even though the design committee might work on the final product, but coming up with what's gonna get the business info out and to promote the
I
businesses.
think the board makeup of this thing should be all the different entities that we've got structured from all the different organizations, because that way everybody has to say something.
Right. You really, I think that you can speak to, there's really no magic number as far as the board goes. You guys decided 10, but
Yeah, and bidding gets hard. You know, you have a lot of opinions and you might not be able to move. If it gets really large, if you're talking 20, 25 people, that could be.
I'm not saying that.
But still, it's somebody, a representative from each, and we were talking a little bit last night about, we didn't do terms on our board members, particularly in the beginning, and I always laughed when I asked them if they would serve on the board, you know, saying, you know, it's not a lifetime commitment, but, you know, but we found most of them, you let me know when you're ready, you know, whenever you're ready, if it's in a year, 2 years, 5 years. But we had new people coming on, some would rotate off, but particularly in the beginning, the consistency was a problem for us. We had a chamber rep, the president would serve. And so he or she would just about get started, and they're out. And then we have another one, and by the time they got caught up on what we were working on, that person's no longer part of it. So, you know, I know there's should be some kind of term, and we didn't have the problem getting stale because we had folks moving in, moving out, changing. But we may have had 3 left on that were originals that still serve, that really enjoy it, and that's now 16 years later. But on our committee, it's the same thing. We still have a lot of the original people serving on the committees.
Kyle talked to the STP factor, the same 10 people, and, you know, it takes a lot of,
We probably had 45 or 50 active volunteers at all times, if not more. We had a list to call on at all times. Some of them could help with this, some of them could help with that, and the more you had, the less you burn out the ones you have, because, you know, it's an hour here, or it's, you know, half an hour there, and you didn't have to beat them to death.
because events take a lot of volunteers, that's for sure.
And, you know, even planning projects, or, you know, whatever it is, it takes some time.
Ms. Metallic?
I have more questions,
All right,
sorry,
fire away.
but I'm curious.
Yeah.
What type of an organization were you and are you now? Were you an LLC, corporation, a 501c3, a 501cx?
This is what's a little bit different about us. We were totally managed by the town. We never became a full-blown Main Street community. We operated as one, and Main Street, as an affiliate, let us participate in almost all things that were Main Street. Sometimes we had to pay fees for, most of the time we had to pay a fee for a speaker or whatever, but it was still small compared to my calling that person to come in and do. But they did let us go along that way. You know, the biggest problem with that, and we talked about that a little bit in 2008 when we had a new council come in, I got fired at a council meeting, and on a night when there was nobody in the room and nothing going on. I just said, I usually didn't go to meetings, but they had a majority one night, the new council members, and they fired me, did away with the program, which they couldn't do, so they had to have another meeting to balance the budget at that point before they could approve the budget. But there were a lot of people in the room. Our room was a little bigger than this, and it was wall-to-wall. People came to fight for the program, and that's when I knew we had made it. And one of those new council members stood there and said, how many of you can vote in the town of Woodstock? And these are all our business owners and building owners in town. And they might not live in town, but they can't vote. But they put their future and their money, their investment, their life into the town. And I mean, that was probably the last time she ever bad-mouthed the committee. I don't think there was an uproar and an uprising there, but that's the problem. You need to be independent in some ways, I think, with support of the town.
So when you got those grants, were they given directly to the town?
Yes, it was all through the town.
It was all given directly to the town?
It was all through the town. Mhm.
And any donations made were to the town and were not tax deductible?
And another unique experience for us is our town manager prior was saying, you're not a fundraising group. Right now, you're funded by council. We always said, the minute that it was over, we would form our own group and become that group that raised money. We did very few, until we had a director of finance, because of the bookkeeping aspect of all of that. We didn't really we did donations for projects, for particular projects, a park project, Veterans Park project. And some of those things we did do donations for, but we did not have to raise money in membership fees and things like that. No special business tax assessment, none of those things. And it was a unique experience. And was after being there for a while, and I was thinking, okay, I've got a desk, I've got an office, I've got a phone, I've got internet, I've got a computer, I've got public works, watering plants, I've got, they carry the tables out for an event. It's like, do I really want to do that on my own at this moment? I didn't have to, but if we had to, that group would have bellied up and would have been a part of it because they believed in it.
So you had no IRS reporting requirements?
No, we did not. We did not.
But your events are all taken care of by volunteers, planned.
And I see your event schedules. looks great, all the things going on independently around from, what was the, not the one, Oyster,
All over the oyster farm.
yes, and the harbor, and different places, all the things going on.
Yeah.
The oyster farm was not what I expected. I expected a shanty out on the river, so it was over on the, out on the bay. It was not what I expected when we rode out there.
Classic.
That just wasn't what I expected. So it's a little bit different. You go through, and I think Main Street's attitude and their requirements, or, you know, when you go for designation, there are requirements on that with that.
George, I guess if we set this up, we're gonna be, the town will be funding the group, the Main Street group. It wouldn't be part of the town because.
No, it would be funding the group, it would be, my understanding is that the town would be funding the group either partially or fully. I mean, nothing would prevent the group from raising money,
Right.
but certainly we would be supporting in terms of hiring a part-time director, maybe eventually a full-time director.
But, I mean, we'd still, I think the way I think we're trying to do it is do a 501c3, which will allow them to fundraise.
Well, I mean, yes, I'd like to hear from Andrew, but I think that the direction the business association is going is to convert the existing 501c3 back into an our town, or a Main Street organization. And I think that makes a lot of sense. If you read the original charter of what is now the business association before we modified it,
Yeah.
it really fits very much into what Jane has been talking about. And it keeps things cleaner if you do it that way.
And Main Street will be part of that process too, and getting, you know, helping
Yes,
establish how that's
Which
set up.
goes back to your question. Most of the events here are always volunteer. They always have been. So the new thing that's going on down here, the new event at the Oyster Farm down there, the Shuckin', whatever. It's going to be, that's a private entity. So that's pure profit. Where opposed to what was over here, the clam sale was not necessarily for profit. Even though probably, there might have been some.
And from time to time, the town has participated in help, in terms of helping with events. For example, the Clam Slam, town employees helped to run that. So there's sort of a mix there. But we have a lot of organizations in town that are very active. Citizens for Central Park in particular has done a lot. Business Association certainly has done a lot for businesses. And I think finding a way to coordinate them will help us to do things more efficiently.
And ultimately, like I said at the beginning, I mean, the board of the Business Association is preparing a proposal to take to the membership. But, you know, we need to sell them, not just on the program, but the confidence that it will actually happen in the ways that we've explained that should be expected.
Well, the good thing is, for people that don't live in town that want to come to vote this past election, at least they'll have more of a say with what goes on. Because there was a lot of people that didn't live in town that wanted to vote. It's kind of an eye-opener for a lot of people.
Okay.
About the chamber? You say something.
Chamber.
Chamber of Commerce for
Is here.
Northampton County is here, and Elizabeth and I. We're supportive of this whole venture. I mean, I know that you've had some issue in Woodstock, it sounds like at some point, and I know, and this is old in the past stuff, but a lot of the members who are associated with the chamber now are a new generation, they're younger, they're new to the area, like myself. We don't know anything that happened in the past. And we know that there's been some bad blood at times, but we're really not, we don't care about that, I guess is the way to look at it. So we view it as it's time to move on, it's time for the county's chamber to be supportive of not only this town, but also the other towns in the county. But I think in general, I think there's some excitement amongst the chamber to see this move happen. I think it benefits everybody. I mean, it's not just a business thing. And I think it benefits the community, and I think you know, that was something that, speaking for myself, that was something that my family, when choosing to move here, saw the potential. And we just want to kind of, we want to see it grow and see it blossom to what it should be. So.
I just look around,
No.
you have a fantastic town, and so
Oh,
many
absolutely.
assets. I mean, I just walk around, well, what, everything's
Well,
here.
The first thing Jane asked me when she pulled into town is, why the hell did you bring me here?
We're here.
Great. Like, look at your storefronts, there's hardly any vacancies, the town is beautiful.
10 years ago, it was 180 degrees opposite. And there's been a lot of work with a lot of groups to
And
really
it
change
shows.
it.
It shows.
It's taken a lot of work.
And I know, visiting with some of the merchants today, I think they have some expectations that you're gonna have to tackle, but, you know, like I say, there's no magic bullet, they're not, Main Street's not giving you money. You know, they all think it's gonna be, you know, you're gonna have the streetscape plan or this whatever, but, one of the things getting started that was really good is that you have some of your volunteers walk around with a camera, have them take pictures of good things and bad things. And I'll put it,
There's plenty of people do that.
and they went, we had them go in teams basically, and they went around and they took pictures. And I said, I'll offer this on Brent, but some of the things are things the town probably doesn't notice, or little things that can be taken care of that just make it better, that don't cost a lot of money, don't take a lot of labor, but they're things that on a day-to-day basis you just don't see. You're all in the trenches, you see it. We had problems, somebody had problems with gravel on the sidewalk, and they were just really angry at everything that went on in town because there was gravel on the sidewalk. Well, once the gravel was off the sidewalk, he was an advocate, you know, it was just a little thing. The police used to come around and check the doors, and they didn't check the doors, front doors anymore, and so they started checking front doors, and it wasn't, they were walking by, all they had to do was check the doorknob. It wasn't a big deal that cost money, but it made some merchants happy campers.
And the devil's in the details, it's the little things that a town can do that make a difference and separate your average town from your excellent town. And I think that's the things we're going to focus on is, you know, the detail-oriented, the attention to quality is the main thing. And, you know, like you, I think, said in your presentation, if you're not going to do it right, don't do it. And I think there's some times in the past, not to throw jabs, but I think it was just something we wanted to do. We didn't have the money, so we'll kind of do it haphazardly. You know, where I think, you know, moving forward, we need to be committed to what we're going to do. And, you know, that's always what I've always said, design matters. And you know, when you're trying to develop a sense of place, it's very necessary. And people notice those things. And they notice them by not noticing them, if that makes any sense. And, you know, I think that's places where we can see improvement is just, you know, there's a lot of little things we can do that may not be the most expensive projects. You will, you know, just bring sort of the synergy that we're trying to develop to get people to volunteer, to get the ball rolling with the program that I think, you know, in 2 years, I think we will be able to accomplish a lot. So, it's also, you know, honestly, it's for the town council to see that there is, you know, this is a good investment, that we are starting to see things. And we're, you know, we have 3 employees in Public Works with a super, with a foreman, so we don't have a lot of manpower, and that's why, you know, some of the organization, some of the volunteerism and, you know, hanging the planter baskets or even maintaining the planter baskets, you can adopt a planter basket, for example, and you can water it because, you know, we have limited resources. But I think there's definitely, I think this program will serve the town of Cape Charles well.
I have a small project for you.
Okay.
We were walking this morning along the beach, and then probably under the winds up there. I know the wind's tough.
It's a can of worms right now.
Yeah, you should have. The flags on, just some kind of flag on the couple of telephone poles along there. I think if they'd be worn out quickly. Don't buy, you know, they're not that expensive. And there weren't that many poles. I just thought, that would really look cool along that little strip along the beach. It's a little thing.
On the 3 or 4 poles on the beach. Yes.
There weren't many, but it would just look, We were probably six, were there 6 of them? Six or 8 of them there?
Who supervises this program? Who gets to decide if a flag would look good or not, or the design of the flag?
What happened was, now some of the things, we actually designed a town flag. We had a contest for it and a selection committee for that, which was a lot of fun as well. And we had 42 entries for the town flag design. And I don't think I put a picture of that in, but it was capturing what our town was. As for like the banners and the flags that we have on the street, we bought some of the generic ones from the flag companies that we did to extend our Christmas decorations that are not expensive at all, just to extend our Christmas decorations. But
But I think it's more of a committee decision.
it
It wasn't
is,
the local government.
it was not local government. The design committee would then come up with a design for our banners.
Well, so everyone else is doing this, having to go through part of district review or historic district review. This group review have free reign, or, I mean, is it decided to look good, or just?
Our group did, we would have to, no, we didn't have to review board, but we did take it to town council after we came up. And like whole design,
Still matter
design.
but it's still matter for the district.
Yeah, it's
Well,
still-
each district has its own entity for certain things that can be put up and certain things that can't put up.
Right.
So it still has to go through those, it should still have to go through those
And
committees. Not necessarily for the content or what it is, but basically, does it fit the current law of that particular district? The whole, each district has its own set of rules just because, that's why we have districts, it's all still represented.
Right. So there's a lot more coordination that will have to go on, so.
Well, they should, hopefully they would have the rules and regulations.
Yeah, you would-
The same thing that from the historic or the harbor district, depending upon what side of the street there are on the main street. Half of it's harbor, half is historic. So each has their own different entity. So, and they'll take that into consideration, believe me. We have for a long time taken a lot of that stuff into consideration when we reunited to get stuff.
I mean, that was, with the town, we always, we went to council with any proposal, we come up with a design. And I say not all of them happen, but,
Well, the other thing is your holes within VDOT's right.
Call you right back.
You know, VDOT's a partner as well, you know, you have to get approval.
you have to get
get
approval to put
permission-
those bands up.
Permission from the utilities that you want to to their holes, so, you know, it is a lot for.
It takes,
Yeah,
Well, those are the Main Street, those are our poles, right?
I think on the ornamental fixtures, I think
Yes.
they are, yes. So we do own those.
you know, on those, but all the telephone,
Right.
utility poles. Ours were jointly owned by the telephone company and Dominion Power. So we had to get permission from both of them to hang them on poles and charge them off.
I just have one note. Like, after we get everything in place, we've got these great plantings, you know, we're limited on budget on taking care of it, and that seems to be part of the problem.
Right.
So is there like a way that, I guess if we're earning more money or raising more money or getting funded, maybe we could shift that back into taking care of it? I know volunteers, but it's hard, you know, you can adopt a basket, but
Right.
it's kind of all this.
And every year you're probably replanting this basket.
Well,
Right.
from the business association aspect, we did the same thing from the love sign. We basically set up a budget to maintain that. So some of the funding that came into that went into the general funds for maintaining that sign. And I think we've had it 3 years now, 4 years, the love sign? And we've had to put some money into it because it got vandalized a couple times. So we've actually had a fund set up to maintain that. And that's just part of the whole organization.
Okay.
So I think that would transfer, I mean, anything we do, if plantings get put up, if they don't get put up, because we are in kind of a unique area that has a lot of wind sometimes. So they might not necessarily work here, but we do have plantings in front of a lot of businesses that are not well maintained, that could go to taking care of that kind of stuff too.
What I'd say,
Different things.
yeah, what I'd say, we have to figure out how we set that up. We could organize it such that the Main Street committee requests funds every year. They give the town a budget. We need this much for maintenance. We need this much for a director, and so on. And the town then considers that and sets it aside in its budget. Or at some point, some of these things may simply move over to be maintained completely by the town. So it would go under maybe our facilities budget, our public works budget. So there are ways that can be done as long as we anticipate it.
Right.
I mean, we don't want to have something need to be repaired and then, well, we don't have any money in the budget for it. We look ahead.
And that's really the way I had to present a budget all the time for, okay, this is the project that these are the things we'd like to accomplish this year. Whether it was planting trees or if it was, new banners, new whatever, we would have to plan for that. The electronic sign board, those things we had to definitely come up. And we had to find the other half of the money.
At some point, it has to become business as usual. There's a certain amount of maintenance that needs to be done in the town, period. And at some point, it becomes part of that, regardless of the exact mechanism by which you do it.
It rolls into the responsibility.
Excuse me?
And we
Put a 90-minute rule into effect, so you have 3.5 minutes for any more questions. I think Andrew demanded that. So,
Me too, he's working hard all day.
she doesn't have much time to relax, yes.
So I'm sort of new to this. Where is Cape Charles in the whole Main Street program?
We have funds budgeted for next year. We also have some additional funds that can be spent before the end of fiscal year, being June 30th. We have ample funds to hire a part-time director, and probably, I don't know that you remember the exact figures, but probably some pretty good seed money to get some projects off the ground.
And you already have a board or?
We have not established a board yet. That's some of the
It's going to be clarified that the council will be inactive, or
for the funds.
no, for Main Street.
By funding it, they sort of enacted it, but their council will still be in the process, part of the process, as far, especially as part of, we have to select, like you said, the executive committee. Sort of, that's what I'm picking Jane's brain about, is how that was done from the start, because that's one of the advantages Jane has, is that she was where we are at one time, the startup, and it's sometimes uncomfortable to try to figure out some of these things, but yeah, that's why she's here, is to provide me with input, because I didn't start with the town until after she was in place. I think I came a year or two after she sort of got the program running. So there's sort of a gap in my knowledge of the startup end of it, which I'm going to be picking her brain about. But from tonight, I think incorporating some of the existing organizations into the group is going to be very.
Then I guess finding that part-time executive director would be probably the biggest step.
It was the biggest step for me, because just the time involved with managing the organization. I don't know if I answered your question.
This is part of a statewide program or a national program, or?
It is a national program that each state, I guess, that participates has their own, and sort of they all follow the national guidelines, which just went through a rebranding probably in the last 6 months. It's a 30-year program. They sort of went back and reassessed, and I don't know, Andrew, if you remember the figures of the public investment that's been a part of this program. But they have 4 principles that the state require that you follow, and it's very competitive to be granted a Main Street.
It changed, actually, you're right, I had to, because in order for Cape Charles to be in it, it used to be, was it 50,000?
I think
It was
they have
crazy
different
numbers.
numbers now.
It used to be crazy numbers, we had population, I mean, for the state of Virginia, 50,000 or whatever, it's still a small area. But when you get into small towns like Woodstock and here, they had to drop the number down to make it work for these small towns. And quite honestly, I think that's what Main Street's really targeting, is the small towns, it's a lot of small towns. If you've gone anywhere in the state of Virginia, over the years, it's just been beat up, decimated by strip malls that popped up out of nowhere and they just shut down. So I think that's why they reassess it over the last couple of years, to bring it to where it's
And it is,
doable for towns like us.
They have really good presentations, if you didn't see the one, but Virginia Main Street is the state one. And the resources is really the thing, the meetings they have, you'll have representatives that will go to that. I mean, it's all kinds of programs, and interacting with the other towns is just invaluable. And whatever you're thinking about doing, somebody's done it, and one's done it right and one hasn't, and they all will tell you where they failed and where I mean, it's a great group to be a part of. The national group, I've only gone to a couple conventions because we didn't get funded for that. But several of them were close by. So I did get to go to the ones in Baltimore and Philadelphia and places that I could drive to and do it myself. I would go. And you just multiply all that information by 100 times the classes that were available on subjects to talk about how to handle a streetscape project, how to handle dredging when they're, just different. Somebody's gone through it somewhere, and they're willing to share that information. But I say it's a lot of good information that comes through there. There's no money that comes through there, but it is a lot of great information and talk.
You have to find your own funding sources, basically. Like, this program's great, now go find one.
But Main Street has a lot of resources to get that one.
Yeah, they will point you in the right direction
there.
and help you with whatever you need to do.
And it helps on your applications for a lot of those things to be an organized group. Main Street, it bumps you up a notch and all that grant selection too. It scores well. There are a lot of pluses, and I'm a believer just because getting started, like I say, there's 8 principles. Keep that when you're looking at your projects and your things, keep that in mind because it is the quality, incremental. Remember those things because it really helped us, a lot of things looking back on it, it helped. And they'll throw it at you 1,000 times too. I'm sorry to bore you for so long.
I just want to thank everyone for coming out on this. We will be in touch. I wish we had a sign-up sheet where we could get email addresses, and if you're interested, we can do that. Just so we sort of starting to build a base. So I don't have a paper.